Let's discuss the scheduling process if you are in an admin role for a group practice. When you go to your calendar, you're going to be able to see all of your providers in the practice side by side here. And you'll have a slider bar at the bottom so that you can slide across the screen to view your providers. You also have a bar at the left so that you can move things up and down on your screen. You have your legend and settings information over here on the right. You can compress that so it's not in your way and you have more room. Okay. Now I can also use the control key and the plus or minus key on my keyboard and make things smaller so I can fit many things in there or make things even larger. So remember that little feature when you're looking at scheduling a therapy appointment. Now at the top of the screen, I have the ability to look at my therapist schedule side by side for the week or for the day. Okay, so if I'm looking at it for the day or the week, you have the ability to use the forward or back buttons if you want to look at future days or future weeks or past. And if you click today, it'll always return you back to today's schedule. Now, if I am in the process of checking in clients at a front desk, I probably would prefer to be in this day view because then if someone comes to the front desk, I'm seeing everybody's scheduled here and I can just select that appointment and go ahead and, if you're responsible for taking payment, you could take payment or check the client in this case, right? So I just check the client in. It's got the little check mark in there. The therapist can see that and know that the client is there. Now, let's open this sidebar and let me show you some other features that are here. Now, if I would like to see several therapists side by side, as maybe I need to do when I'm scheduling maybe children seeing different therapists, but they're in the same family. So maybe I want to see John's schedule next to Ima's schedule, next to Penny's schedule here. So what this allows me to do is put the therapist side by side on my schedule so that I can view all of those. Now, if I need to schedule a client, if you click into a slot, let's say that we're going to schedule a client for Friday, a few letters of the client's first or last name. Now, this is only going to bring up providers that have already been assigned or patients that have already been assigned to this particular provider. So I'm choosing Perry. Last time this provider saw Perry, it was a 60-minute 90837. And if that's what you want to do this time, you can just go ahead and book it. And now it's on the calendar. And let's say you're talking with Perry on the phone and they realize, wait a minute, 10 isn't going to work. Do you have anything a little earlier on Friday? And if you say, well, we have a 9 o'clock or an 8 o'clock available. He says, actually, I'll take that 9 o'clock. And you can just drag that appointment to that new time on the calendar. Okay. Now, if you would like to set up recurring appointments for a client, all you need to do is click into the time slot. Again, choose the name of the client that you'd like to work with. And if you select the more details options down here, then you're able to say, let's do this for a repeating appointment. So it's going to start on 9/6 at 10 a.m. For a 60-minute appointment slot. It's going to repeat every week. Maybe it's going to be an every 2-week repeat. And it's going to end after X number of occurrences. Let's say we're going to put that through 6 occurrences, or I could schedule it through a certain date, whatever makes the most sense for you. I am just going to go ahead and schedule this for 2 occurrences in this case. Now, if your therapist is using integrated telehealth or Zoom attached to their therapy appointment account, and you'd like to schedule this as a telehealth session, you can just select yes here, and then you can select the type of service that you are scheduling the client into. Let's say it's going to be a 90837. So when you hit save, it's going to go ahead and set up that recurring appointment information. And now that is on my calendar. So let's go ahead and look at that. So we'll see there it is scheduled for tomorrow and for 2 weeks from tomorrow. Now, I also want to show you that you can get directly into a therapist calendar and look at it exclusively just by clicking on top of that therapist's name. Now, what we're seeing on this therapist calendar is they're usually in customary times that they're in the office, and that's outlined in this case by this blue outline. So this therapist does not normally see clients before 8 o'clock or after 5, and they typically take a break for lunch at noon. So you can schedule a client anywhere on this list for the client. Now, if you need to schedule something outside, like maybe you checked with the therapist and they said, yeah, go ahead and schedule them over my lunch hour, that's fine. You can do that. Just click into the slot like you would any client, a few letters of that first or last name. And again, this is warning me that I already have an appointment scheduled with this client on the same day. So you're going to get a warning if there's an appointment scheduled with this client already. In this case, this client happens to be scheduled with Dr. Doe at 4 o'clock that same day. And so this gives you an alert so you can discuss that with the client. Oh, you're already seeing Dr. Doe that day. Most insurance companies are not going to be able to schedule him for 2 appointments on the same day with the same provider in your practice. So you can talk to the client about that. So you're going to get those kind of warnings if there's an appointment already scheduled within a week of that session. Now, let's say that I need to reschedule an appointment to a different week. So let's go here to Perry and let's go to this reschedule button. And now I can say, yep, we need to move Perry to next week on the 11th. And it looks like it's free and clear. In other words, it's green. When I see the client's name here, meaning this appointment is available to schedule a client into. If I need to change the time, maybe the client's looking at, could you do 10 o'clock instead? I can just scroll here and, yep, let's move it to a 10 o'clock. Again, set it up for a telehealth session or change the service code if you need to, but go ahead and hit save. And that marked that client and moved that client to that new appointment slot. Now, one other thing I want to show you here is that Therapy Appointment is keeping a record anytime an appointment is changed or it's canceled. So let's go into Perry's profile here and let's click on Appointments under Client Information. Now you have a sticky filter here that allows you to look forward or back in time. And what I mean by sticky is I can have it show me like a usual span of time here. So we'll see that at one time, Perry did have an appointment scheduled on 9/6 at 10 o'clock, but it was rescheduled to 9/11 at 10 o'clock. Okay. So now we'll see that that's an active appointment on the schedule. So if you need a history of what's happened with these appointments, like the client calls and is like, wait, I'm confused, then you'll have all of that logged in case you need to research it. Now let's go back to the calendar and put some meetings on for a therapist. Now realize that a therapist can block their own meetings, can schedule their own clients, that sort of thing, but maybe in your practice, that's your responsibility. So let's say that I'm an intern says, could you block my schedule out on Friday afternoon? So if you click into that time slot, you can go to out of office. You can search for the amount of time you want to block that. You can have 15 to 90 minutes by default in here. I'm just going to go ahead and hit the 60-minute, hit book it, and then I can drag that to cover up the rest of that time. Okay, so now that tells me that not to put a client in at those time slots. Additionally, if a therapist is allowing clients to do any self-scheduling, clients would not be able to self-schedule at that time. Now, let's take a look at canceling that, right? I can just go in and cancel that in case I put it at the wrong time or something like that. I could also drag it to a different time if I need to. So you have all of that ability to move things around on a schedule. Now let's talk about the colors on the schedule. When you see this background color here, let's go into John's schedule. When you see this colored background and there's two different colors, what that means is that your practice has identified that they have more than one location, and each location is color coded so that when you are glancing at a calendar, you can tell by color what location that therapist is scheduled at that day. And then let's also talk about the colors of the appointments themselves. When we look at the colors of these appointments, which happen to be in the past in this case, appointments we see in green means that the therapist has finished that appointment, written their session note, and there was a claim created for that session for the biller because this client was an insurance, it was an insurance covered appointment. When we see gray, that's an indication that the therapist has finished their session note for that session, but it was a private pay situation. When we see orange, what this indicates is that we took payment for that session, that was collected, but the therapist has not yet finished writing that session note. And I want to assure you that the therapist has this on their dashboard as a to-do item so they don't forget about it. But that's what the orange indicates. Now, over on the right, you have a checkbox. And what this checkbox is about is showing you if you have any canceled appointments. So here is a week where we have some appointments showing in red for canceled appointments. So on the 28th, Ridge Rogers was a no-show. This couple's appointment was canceled, not marked as a late cancel or a, not marked as a late cancel, not marked as a no-show, but just a canceled appointment rather than a rescheduled appointment. Okay, so you can go ahead and see what these colors do for you and guide your eye. Any appointment in blue means an appointment that is scheduled. So scheduled into the future, scheduled today. If it's still blue, it means there's not been a payment taken on an appointment, and the therapist hasn't finished their session note with that appointment yet either. Next, I want to show you a feature in Therapy Appointment that's about finding a next available appointment or time for a series of recurring appointments for a client and their therapist. And in the top right of your side panel, you're going to use the Find Availability. So what this does is, let's say a client calls and says, my therapist said I need to get on the schedule for recurring appointments. So let's say that happens to be with a particular client, and it's John, and it happens to be, let me find a client that sees John. It happens to be Bobby Brooks here. Okay. So Bobby also sees several other therapists at the practice. So I'm seeing their schedules here as well, but I'm going to kick those off. So I'm just seeing John. Now, it's also letting me know that John already has an appointment scheduled for tomorrow, right? So what I am doing is John says, I want to get in for repeating appointment slots. I need late afternoon appointments. And you are looking for a slot that has an availability, let's say maybe for at least this next 6 weeks at a certain time and maybe a certain location if your therapist is working at more than one location. So let's say we're looking for this office. So what I have up here is a look at appointments that might meet that criteria for them. And in this case, I'm going to tell the client, well, if it's going to be late afternoon at a Dallas location, it's going to have to be a Tuesday or a Wednesday. And then knowing the client's already scheduled for the 6th, let's look at the 17th for an appointment. So on Tuesday the 17th, or we could set you up on Tuesdays for either recurring 3 o'clocks or 4 o'clocks. And the client says, oh, 4 o'clock would be perfect. I can go ahead and click into that time. I can set it up for X number recurrences or recurring through a certain date, certain like every 2 weeks maybe instead of every week or every once a month, whatever that needs to be. And if it's going to be telehealth sessions and what type of appointment that's going to be here as well. So if I click the Save button, what this is going to do is it's going to schedule that appointment. Sorry, lets me know I forgot something here. I need to set it up. I said I wanted to do it for 6, but I hit this date and didn't put it for a future date. So let's do that. So it is now putting these appointments on my schedule, and I can get those scheduled out, and it's done. So now let me go back to the calendar. We can go to John, and we can see those recurring appointments scheduled out for this client every 2 weeks. And if you want to go to the month view, you can see it in that month view that that client's on the schedule every other week on Tuesdays. All right. Next, let's talk about canceling an appointment. So we talked about rescheduling an appointment, but let's talk about canceling an appointment. So let's say that Bobby says, well, I know I'm going to be on away and not able to attend later this month. So I can go to John's schedule. I can take a look, and he says, it's the week of the 17th. I am going to be out of town. So I can go in here and go ahead and cancel this appointment. This is not going to be a no-show or anything like that. It's just going to be a cancel, but I can put a note in there. They will be out of town. So that way when this appointment's canceled, we have a reason in there as to why. Okay. If I needed to cancel all the future appointments, I could do that right from here. Because this is a repeating appointment. And if I'm charging a fee for this cancellation, I could go ahead and edit this, like mark it as a no-show or like cancel and charge a fee. But in this case, it's just a cancel, plenty of time. If you need to make an entry into the client's clinical record for any reason, you could select Make Chart Entry and put this into the clinical record where it could be released in a records release. Typically, you're probably not doing that for just basic cancellations, but in case you need to, you have that ability. So let's hit Continue. That appointment is now canceled, and you'll see that it's showing up red on my calendar. Now, if I click into that appointment, I can see, yep, it was Sam Scheduler who canceled that appointment. They canceled it at 10:45 on 9/5, 12 days, 5 hours, and 14 minutes prior to the appointment start, because the client's going to be out of town. Now, what if I, as a scheduler, need to schedule someone else into this slot on 9/17? If I try to click on it, I can set up a new appointment. But if I want to look at this schedule clean without these canceled appointments on it, I can just deselect Show Cancellations, and now it's on my calendar, and I can easily see that that's an available slot and schedule into it. So that gives you some of those options for canceling appointments, rescheduling appointments, and managing a therapist schedule. Thanks for watching. If you have any questions, you can always use the blue question mark on the bottom left corner of your screen to search for answers. Ask a support team, or you can email support@therapyappointment.com.